He just handed Donald Trump the election. That is what I believe. Of course, I don't know that as fact. Of course, things could change. But in my opinion, he just handed Donald Trump the
guys,
election.
I've just been blown away by this. Stephen A. Smith. Not here to give him full-blown praise or anything. Well, a little bit, at least to a certain extent. But Stephen A. Smith actually finally sees the actual literal writing on the wall. This video right here is not fully about what Stephen A. just said. It's not even really and truly about the actual monologue he gave or the episode that he gave on the incident that happened this past weekend. In reality, it's really about the media itself and the rhetoric that's been used, at least as far as the mainstream media is concerned. Of course, I'm pretty sure you guys will probably see, if you have not already been exposed to MSNBC, these people will say that the events that occurred on Saturday was staged. By the way, that conspiracy theory is floating out and it's went mainstream when obviously it was not. I'm showing you guys a bit of a diagram to show you exactly how close it was to ending the former president's life. This right here, of course, being one side of the aisle trying to eliminate another side of the aisle's leader. Not exactly a good look, and obviously Stephen A. Smith could see the writing on the wall. Now, we'll get to that here in a second, but before we go any further, we got to talk about the media and we got to talk about the overall rhetoric. And of course, if you guys saw this video here that was posted earlier today, then chances are you probably know that I may have even offended my own side. And quite frankly, I really truly don't care because I'm writing that video. We need all the help we can get to actually save this nation. But still, though, I'll let you guys watch that one there. However, let's go ahead and get to this. So the other day, Scott Jennings, and don't worry, we'll get to Stephen A. Smith because this is a nice, good setup. Scott Jennings was asked the questions about the actual rhetoric itself, and he was asked the questions about the president, Joe Biden, after the actual assassination attempt. Well, I'll just go ahead and call it assassination. It was just a failed assassination. He was asked about this, and I found what he said to be extremely insightful.
Platitudes, right? Here's where I thought it was lacking. He said the political rhetoric's gotten too hot, and we got to cool it down. And what I wanted him to say was, and you know what that means to me too. Donald Trump is a genuine threat to this nation. He's a threat to our freedom. He's a threat to our democracy. He's literally a threat to everything America stands for. And a few days later, it's time to put Donald Trump in the bullseye. Yep. Now, if the President of the United States had said, I bear some responsibility here, and I'm going to do my part, this would have been a home run. He didn't do that. Instead, he spread it all around, which I guess is as far as he's willing to go. But let me tell you how Republicans are going to take that. They're going to take that as a president who has repeatedly said, I want to heal the soul of the nation, and the buck stops here, but with an unwillingness to acknowledge some of the things that he has said to bring us to a place that he says we're in. Oh. So I'm not, look, let me stipulate two things. I'm praying for Joe Biden. I have been since the debate. We got to do better. And I'm praying for this country because what happened to Donald Trump was an assault on our democracy, and we should all be mad as Americans because that's what happened. But I need the president to take some responsibility.
Play Biden's full response, or at least his full address, and there's even a moment in there where you can actually see the words off the teleprompter, which tells me that they really and truly did not care about the segment they're putting in. But then again, at the same time, though, once you get to see that the vast majority of the people that Biden has got him surround himself with, they're not exactly people who live in the real world. They're people who kind of live in bubbles. And I think that that's kind of sort of what to expect. It's just at this point in time, I think that people are starting to pick up on these people who live inside bubbles probably need to be nowhere near power. I mean, it was a DEI, a Secret Service, that was on Trump's detail, or at least that was the detail that was protecting him the day of the actual shooting. And now people can see that maybe diversity, equity, inclusion, and having women 5'2", 5'3", protecting a guy who's 6'3", 6'4", maybe that's not a good idea, especially given the fact that the RNC, the Secret Service, recently just rounded up another guy who was outside with an AK-47, who was actually there probably with the intentions of hurting somebody again. And also, not to mention that there's also this information that's coming out that the guy who actually took a shot at Trump, it's actually coming out that this guy was actually checked out by Secret Service 3 hours prior. I mean, I'm just saying that the current administration is not exactly giving us any additional confidence about the security of our leaders. That's all I'm saying. Really like at the very end Van Jones's facial expression. I'm going to link the whole clip in the description box, but you guys are now seeing something in the B-roll footage that came from Piers Morgan Uncensored. We're going to be talking more about that segment on Friday because he had Destiny on, and of course, when he had Destiny on, you're probably looking at some of the tweets, some of the things that he has said recently about the firefighter who tragically lost his life that day, and it's pretty daggone despicable. However, I'm going to have a bigger video out on that on Friday to kind of explain to everybody, kind of remind them that you shouldn't be concerned about a person that, quite frankly, who just was simply exposing who the hell he really and truly is, or who the hell he really and truly always has been. All you got to do is just look into the guy's past, and you'll see that he has always felt that anybody who thought different from him should be 6 feet under. I'm just simply saying, YouTube, I'm not advocating or anything like that. But speaking of Piers Morgan, he made an extremely good observation on the current administration.
To match. Well, the many people who've criticised security failings at his rally on Saturday were quick to point out that his detail this time round seemed to be made up entirely of strapping men. But the focus of the night was undoubtedly Trump himself, a man who now looks like he's seriously preparing for a return to running the country. President Biden, meanwhile, fumbled questions about his own incendiary rhetoric in the lead up to Saturday's shooting.
You called your opponent an existential threat. On a call a week ago, you said it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. There's some dispute about the context, but I think you appreciate that.
I didn't say crosshairs. I was talking about focus on. Look, the truth of the matter was, what I guess I was talking about at the time was there was very little focus on Trump's agenda.
Yeah, the term is bullseye.
It was a mistake to use the word. I didn't say crosshairs. I meant bullseye. I meant focus on him. Focus on what he's doing.
What a pathetic excuse from, frankly, an increasingly pathetic president. Let's be crystal clear. Nobody thought Biden was talking about archery when he used the word bullseye, and he knows it. The presidential move would have been to say that everyone, on all sides, needs to dial down their incendiary rhetoric. But this president hasn't looked presidential for a long time now. Well,
Everything you guys need to hear right there. Exactly how weak that the current administration is, exactly how weak Joe Biden is, how frail he is. But then again, though, given the fact that the media is running out of ways to defend this guy, it does not surprise me one bit that these people have chosen to take this road. However, Stephen A. Smith, one of the few people out there who's actually been honest about this, actually gave us let's just say he gave us an extremely good take that should tell everybody in the world what the writing on the wall says. Now, with that right there being said, let's go ahead and get into that take, and let's go ahead and see where he's right and where he is wrong. So what was Stephen A. talking about? Well, he had an episode the other day with Chris Cuomo. Fredo Cuomo, I still call him that. Don't get me started on why I still call him Fredo. I just like calling him Fredo, but there's other reasons why. He had him on, but before that, he had a nice little monologue talking about the actual failed assassination, talking about the media and how it was that they had acted and the way the politicians were acting. And I got to tell you right now, as somebody who's more of an opponent to Stephen A. Smith, I quite frankly was pretty daggone impressed. Like I've said before, even a broken clock is right twice a day. But let's take a look at it.
First of all, we don't wish that on anybody as human beings. I don't give a damn what your political ideology is, where you stand, whatever the case may be. You don't wish that on anybody. And so thank God that Donald Trump was not killed. He's fortunate in that regard. And to be quite honest with you, as a nation, we're very, very fortunate. Because when you talk about chaos and mayhem and Lord knows what other words that you can associate with such a thing, if that man, if Mr. Crooks, who is now deceased.
Okay, good. I'm glad to see that you don't want the Trumpster to get hurt. By the way, Stephen A. did an episode with Patrick Bet-David recently where it was revealed that Trump actually called Stephen A. Smith to ask him about purchasing the Buffalo Bills. This was a year before Trump decided to run for president, so it's very possible that Trump could have been the owner of the Buffalo Bills long before he was president. Just simply pointing that out there. But we get a little bit later on in this segment, and this right is what you get.
Looking at situations like this, first thing I want to get out the way is this. This shooter, this is my opinion. It's not the opinion of anybody I work with, anybody that knows me, or anything like that. In my opinion, the shooter, he just handed Donald Trump the election. That is what I believe. Of course, I don't know that as fact. Of course, things could change. But in my opinion, He just handed Donald Trump
Many
the election.
people have been saying that the former president will more than likely win re-election because of the fact that an assassin's bullet got him in the ear. And of course, to go on top of that, he got right back on up, screaming, fight, 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 fight. However, the thing is this right here, it's the optics. It's the optics of everything. And of course, thank God the former president is alive. I mean, I do plan on voting for the guy this year. And obviously, I'm going to need him to kind of get back in power. Not to mention an actual conservative Congress, a conservative legislative body to try to get some things done to try to save the country, because obviously this liberal crap ain't working. But still, though, the point is this right here. The optics, the visuals of what happened afterwards, which is exactly what we're going to be speaking about right here in a second, and all the events that happened after the shooting, exactly how it was handled versus the current regime and how they handle things, speaks volumes to the overall situation. And even Stephen A. has picked up on this.
Years. You can't buy a better photo than what Donald Trump has at his disposal as we speak. He goes to the ground. He's got blood on his right ear, looked like it got nicked, which is what he said, it pierced his ear. He gets up. He looks disheveled. All right. Clearly taken aback by what happened, and rightfully so. Blood trickling down his ears and the right side of his face. Surrounded by Secret Service agents, raises his fist, is shriveling, cringing his face up, fight, fight, fight. He says it 3 times. And while raising his fist, surrounded by Secret Service agents, the American flag is behind him. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't buy that. You can't buy a better photo than that if you're a politician. You can't buy
The optics of that shot will live on forever. And by the way, there are people out there already trying to get that shot banned because they believe it helps the former president out in the election. Yeah, I remember a time where we could run for president. We had people who were running, and the mainstream media. Well, the mainstream media has always been biased, but any type of event like this right here, they wouldn't try to shield from the public. I mean, we are a free society, or we believe we're a free society, but these people want the image actually shielded because they believe it might help Trump too much. Whoever it was, whoever got the harebrained scheme to celebrate the assassination, whoever it was that got the harebrained scheme to have this type of ideology around the former president, you've actually set your beliefs back a good 100 years because of the assassination attempt. I'm just saying, but let's continue.
Look at the video of him raising his fist. Look at the crowd going crazy behind him. Look at them saying, yeah, 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 And then listen to the pundits on TV talking about how strong, how vibrant, how courageous. And they were using these words. And not coincidentally, it was the antithesis of what they've been saying about President Biden. Now you see right there what Donald Trump's statement was on his Truth social media page. In the aftermath of what transpired, I want to thank the United States Secret Service and all of law enforcement officials for their rapid response on the shooting that just took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. Most importantly, I want to extend my condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed, and also to the family of another person that was badly injured. It is incredible that such an act can take place in our country. I was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong and that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through the skin.
Speaking of the bullet, it is said that during the phone call, which I'll link the video in the description box, RFK, apparently Trump had a conversation with him, and he told him that it felt like a great big giant mosquito had landed on his ear or something like that. The RNC, they did play the song Many Men, as Trump was walking in. I'll try to get the actual clip for you. I would play it, but I'd probably get a copyright claim for it. The fact of the matter is that the optics of this situation have cemented him to legendary status. Stephen A. Smith can see this. This guy automatically has a bunch of street cred. And don't worry, we'll talk more about street cred tomorrow. But the point is this right here. This right here is something that you quite frankly don't recover from. And it actually gets worse for the incumbent party. But we'll get to that after this.
Bleeding took place, so I realized then what was happening. God bless America. This is what he's doing. There's not a word in there that he said that we can refute. And he brought up somebody that was injured. This individual was killed. Shots rang out, and he literally jumped to save his wife, to cover his wife and his 2 children. And he got hit in the head, and he was killed. My condolences to him, to his family, and to him, of course. and to those who were injured at the rally as well.
Yeah, that's correct. A firefighter died. You also had another guy who's a veteran who also got nailed too, who also got wounded. This right here should, by the way, destroy the arguments that people have when they claim it was staged. I mean, Trump broke these people, just simply saying. However, it was Stephen A. Smith's criticism of the media that I really and truly want to look at here and actually comment on, because what you guys are about to hear is exactly 100% truthful. And he's been warning about this. He knows this. Come to find out, he was actually correct. Let's look.
A presidential candidate and the GOP nominee into court days or weeks after he survived an assassination attempt. You can't do it. So all the legal stuff, all the legal maneuverings that have been taking place, it's all over, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump's not going to jail. Not going to be prosecuted. You can book it. You can book it. It's not going to happen. Again, it's just my opinion. It's not going to happen. You can't justify doing it now. How are you going to pull that off? I can't see it. Here's the last point that I wanted to make before we have our next guest on, because it's something that's very, very important.
Once again, got to interrupt, mostly due to commentary and copyright. There are some people who get upset with these types of videos. Let me just go ahead and tell them right now, this is a commentary channel, a commentary style video, and yes, it is going to involve people cutting clips. And by the way, I don't know how to do the share screen thing. I will learn here in the future, and we'll start doing videos like that to also go along with the video essays I plan on making with the other accounts that I've created to create an actual network of content. But the point is this right here. He's not lying. He's not wrong. What else are you going to do? You can't run on your record. You can't run on the country. You can't run on that. You can't run on your foreign policy. Right now, we've got World War III going on, the brink of it at least anyways. People know that when Trump was in office, Russia was not invading Ukraine. People also know that the Middle East, for the most part, was peaceful. People would also tell you that, obviously, China was not saber-rattling on Taiwan. I'm just simply saying there's nothing you can run on. And, of course, the court cases, which I'll talk about more after this next segment, because I think the court cases is actually very telling, especially given the fact that they haven't really changed anything at all. They haven't swayed any voters or anything like that. If anything, they've actually made Trump look more sympathetic. What the hell do you think this assassination attempt makes him? What do you think that does? Let's watch this next part.
You know, I watched a lot of news over the last 48 hours. And we've seen a lot of political pundits and politicians over the airwaves waxing poetically about we need to tone down the rhetoric. I just played you the sound from the President of the United States saying we got to tone down the rhetoric and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, the American public is getting lectured on what we need to do to dial back the rhetoric. I don't disagree with that sentiment. I don't disagree with that sentiment at all. But I'll be damned if I don't disagree.
I got to break in here one more time before we get to the last part, which is going to be the longer part where Stephen A. goes off on the media. Because this is where it goes back, and once again, that whole both sides are bad narrative. But let me go ahead and say this real quick. It's not the conservative side of the aisle that's actually trying to put their opponents in jail, okay? It's not the conservative side of the aisle that's trying to assassinate their opponents. It's only the left, all right? And I can already hear somebody say, but the shooter was a registered Republican. Yeah, but he also donated $15 to a progressive cause, and you got a registered to vote Republican in the Ohio and Pennsylvania Republican primary. It's a close primary. You got to register as to actually vote in it, okay? So that kind of shatters that narrative. And also, one more thing, too. Michael Steele at MSNBC is the biggest rhino I've ever seen in my life. He hates Donald Trump. He's a Republican. Steve Schmidt, the Lincoln Project, is a Republican. Hates Donald Trump. Anna Navarro is a Republican. Hates Donald Trump. Spare us the BS. Spare us the crap, all right? Just figure I'd go ahead and point that out. The Georgia case is under appeal because Fani Willis, or Fannie Willis, whatever you might want to call her, Nathan Wade clapping those cheeks, of course, you know, that incident, that right there has gone to the appeals court. Well, they're probably going to overturn it, and they're probably going to say, yeah, we can dismiss the case. The Stormy Daniels hush money case, which, by the way, was the one that people at least cared about. Pretty sure you guys already know that the rules were stipulated there in very, very liberal New York to ensure a conviction. And then, of course, you've got this case down in Florida, the Mar-a-Lago documents case that Stephen A. Smith just mentioned. Judge Eileen Cannon she dismissed that case. She dismissed that case, by the way, because, yeah, that's right. Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, he was, how do I say this? Special prosecutor Jack Smith improperly collected the evidence and also improperly showcased the evidence. And then, of course, you also got the 1-6 case, which is also being kicked down the road as well. And that matter probably is going to get dismissed too once it gets to the Supreme Court, especially given the fact that the Supreme Court already ruled that the 1-6 defendants, they were improperly charged. That coincides with the Donald Trump situation. So it looks to me like these efforts were all for naught, but let's watch this last part.
Or I don't at least have a problem, rather, with the politicians and the pundits who have the audacity, the unmitigated gall to stick their big faces in front of a camera and think they get to lecture us when they're the ones who instigate all of this. It's them. It's them. All of this rhetoric we're talking about, and I don't mean in any way to imply that that's responsible for crooks trying to assassinate the president. No, that's on him. Clearly, something was wrong with him. Clearly, the bullying got to him, and he wanted to sit up there and be a martyr or a hero or whatever the hell he thought of himself. I'm certainly not going to blame politicians or political pundits for that, but I don't want to be lectured about how we need to dial down the rhetoric when you're the one that's fomenting it. You're the one instigating it. You're the one starting it.
Stephen A is right about the politicians. He's right about the mainstream media. But where he is wrong about is he is 100% wrong about the application and the actual political parties here. The Republican Party does not do anything. They don't even defend their own. It is the Democratic Party at this moment in time that is actually physically going after their opponents. And even you, Stephen A. Smith, have said it before. Beat this man fairly. Beat him fairly. That right there is the one disagreement that I have with Mr. Stephen A. Smith. Now, instead of going much further into this and screaming and hollering to end this video or whatever, I want to make a plea. Right now, we need to unify as a country, and I can only hope and pray that Stephen A. Smith will go back to being the lovable Stephen A. Smith we all love. You know, the Stephen A. Smith that would get into debates on First Take with Michael Irvin, or the Stephen A. Smith who would get in debates with Kevin Hart. The Stephen A. Smith who was honest, brutally honest with us and made us laugh and actually made us smile. Rather than the Stephen A. Smith that we got to come out here and constantly criticize because his belief system appears to be batshit crazy, when in reality, he doesn't even know the side that he has decided to join. But then again, at the same time, though, the vast majority of the things that he has said is scripted anyways by a white guy who's obviously a liberal. But you guys tell me what you think. With that right there being said, please hit the like button, please subscribe, share the video, please sign off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.